Hello, sisters. Hello, sisters. I don't know. Like, I always wait for the number thing to show up, but then when I watch my videos back, it's like I sit there for like 5 seconds just staring at the screen. So then, if I actually try to like say hello when I think it starts, then I look at the numbers and I'm like, I started saying it before the live starts. I don't know. Basically, I can't coordinate when the live starts and when I should start talking. So yeah. Um. Well, don't fall off the cushioning. For those of you who wonder why I just grabbed Momo randomly, she clearly was about to jump on the desk. And when she does that, everything shakes and is really loud. And like, okay, my computer, I have like two screens. They're sitting on these like plastic cube things that are like not super solid. So, where is everyone? Hello, Sabrina, hello. Where is everyone else? There was like 14 women watching the live stream. Um, when she jumps on the desk, everything shakes and the computers, like the monitors that has like the camera on it, shakes like a lot. Anyway, I was trying to circumvent this by grabbing her. Hello. But then as soon as I grabbed her to help put her on the floor, because usually, oh thanks Anong. Usually if like she's here and it's just a chair, she'll like jump onto the chair to get on the ground. She thinks this is too high up to jump directly on the ground. So instead she'll jump on the desk. I was trying to like gently put her onto the ground. As soon as I grabbed her, she was like, "Argh!" But I mean, it worked out well because now she's sitting there again. Anyway, okay, like half of you are here, so I'll just start talking about the thing. So, first of all, in the past, when I have done discussion videos, the discussions have taken like between 90 minutes and 3 hours, no more. I mean, I've already streamed for like over 2 hours today. Hey, Michelle. Also, Myron. Yo, what's up? Long time no see. Um, yeah. So, I'm going to try to keep this short and tight. I've looked at. Okay, so just general update on the Intercourse book. I started reading it last June. Uh, and like something's happened in my personal life that made me not like stop streaming at that time. And then I felt weird that I had left this book for like 10 fucking months. Like when I started like streaming again in the end of February, beginning of March. Like I started streaming again 2 weeks ago, right? I basically was like looking at this book that I got at a women's festival last summer and thinking, this definitely freaking belongs on my channel. I want to read this on my channel. And then I felt so guilty that I had started and abandoned Intercourse that I was like, should I just delete it from my channel? Because also, if you watch the earlier videos of it, like I had so many technical issues because I wasn't streaming at home. I was like somewhere else. So I had issues with like the mic, issues with like I ended up streaming some of it on my iPad and some of it on a computer. Like the whole thing was just a mess. So I was like, should I just scrap it and start over? Like I don't know. Anyway, so I felt really weird about it basically. But today, after I finished the lesbian erasure or the disappearing L, are you gonna jump on the desk now? If I try to help you, are you gonna freak out? Okay, okay. Okay. Bye. All right, well, there she goes. Yeah, after the lesbian erasure stream, basically I wanted to make sure that the playlists were all like in correct order because sometimes, like, I think it was chapter 2 of lesbian erasure. I originally planned for it to be 2 parts and it ended up being 3 parts. So I was like, oh, I'll like make it reordered. And I also added like I didn't have a thumbnail or like a scheduled stream. Like all of my streams are scheduled right now, they're just not public because it like makes me anxious. So I made like a scheduled stream for the discussion of lesbian erasure, or not lesbian erasure, fuck, the disappearing L. Anyway, when I did that, I was like, oh, you know what I should do? Because I had so many technical issues with this series before, like the Intercourse series. There's a bunch of videos that like I pre-scheduled, and then I ended up like doing the stream for like 30 seconds and the audio didn't work. So then I did like just a different stream. There's no description and the title is just like Intercourse chapter 3 or something. So I reordered all of that. I put in the correct thumbnails, I put them in the right playlists and all of that. Just because I want everything to be in a playlist that you can click play and listen to the whole book in order. or like click the playlist and click download and download the whole playlist in order, right? Like I have so many hundreds of live streams on my channel that it like would be really freaking confusing. Like right now, if you click on my channel, like on your computer, there's like a list of the playlists so you can like find everything organized, you know? Anyway, I reorganized everything and then I was like, you know what? I should stop being intimidated by this book, because another issue that I have with this book, which is the reason that some of the like discussions were so short, was for those of you, I remember Anung and I think Lavender Rose and Toss Stones specifically, when I was reading chapter 2 Skinless, it was like all this existentialist stuff and I was like, I am not educated, or self-educated about that school of philosophy at all. I had no frame of reference to discuss existentialism whatsoever, and I felt so inept, and I was like really self-conscious about it. And I was kind of like, so many women are like, yo, read stuff, talk to us about stuff, it helps us learn. And I was like, who the fuck am I to like be teaching about these things when like I don't fucking know what I'm talking about? So anyway, all that to say, 10 months later, um yeah, Myron's like a lol. Myron, you put me at ease because like I've hung out with you. Also, why aren't you a moderator? Like, okay. Anyway, Myron, you put me at ease because we hung out at a women's festival this summer and she is like so chill that I just imagine women like you like watching and just being like, oh, this is like interesting, and like not being stressed out. uh Anung is like Sartre and Camus is like today's Harry Potter in the 1950s. Anyway, so that's the long and the short of why I was like, you know what, today just do it. You know, like Nike, just do it. I'm going to 2 of them back to back this year, Myron. I'm not on Discord, but like email me. We can see which ones you're going to, which ones I'm going to, and like camp beside each other and whatever. Yeah, okay, so let's talk about the chapter. I really have like one overarching thought about this chapter. Well, no, I have 2 overarching thoughts about this chapter. I'll start at the end because that's the one I remember most. So, she talks about the physical possession of the women through like the fuck, right? Intercourse. Um and how there's like this behind closed doors aspect to it. And it's very heavily policed of like what's public and what's private. So because of this, women have this like collective, I mean, she doesn't say this, but reading between the lines, women have this collective social idea that sex is like romantic, that like if their experience of it is bad, it's like that's behind closed doors. It's not discussed. What's discussed in public is like completely separate from the reality of it in private. But through the Dybbuk's possession of Rachel, when she goes out in public and like defiles herself or whatever the fuck the Dybbuk is doing to her, it shows like the ultimate end point, the extreme end point of what possession does to women. And basically, as far as I understood the chapter, Dworkin's conclusion is that this couldn't be let stand. The entire town of Gore had to change their like laws and social what standards to prevent anything from like this from ever happening again. Why? Because you can't let the women really know that the extreme endpoint of what they're in like participating in, which is like coitus, could result in this. Like you can't let them see behind the curtain, right? At least that's how I understood it. So they were like, we need to go back to the laws and rules because that will regulate things to keep the hidden things hidden and keep the men in power. Right? Like, I mean, she talks about this in Right Wing Women that if women think that they're getting a better deal out of things, they'll go along with it. You don't need to convince them if they've already convinced themselves. So by keeping the like horror, or not horror, like not air quotes, the horror of the extreme endpoint of being physically and psychologically possessed by men secret, the men don't need to convince women of anything, right? Now I apply that to modern day. The idea of a private, I mean, what did you say this book was from 1672 or something super old? 1648. Yeah. Um in modern times, the idea of a private versus public knowledge of like the fuck is completely like irrelevant because porn, right? Like there's very few, okay, in the western world, there's very few teenage girls who have never seen porn, who don't know what the like the physical, at least like watching it, like the visceral reality of sex could be, of like males penetrating women, like what the worst case scenario could be, you know? Like I don't want to get into details, but we've all seen shit. Okay? But to me, there is still, so the privacy versus uh women having autonomy over their bodies through being able to keep things private is gone because of porn, basically, especially with deep fake and all that crap. um in a way, though, this doesn't actually change anything because it's the same situation as before. You know, there's like, uh, what's it called? I think the term is like dead eyes. There's like a whole subgenre of porn of women who are like super, super sexually traumatized and they just like check out. Usually it's like actual porn stars, you know, who, I mean, like they've been like in the industry for a long time. Um, or I mean, to them, a long time. What's the average time women last in the porn industry? It's like 2 to 5 years, right? Anyway, uh, so that to me is like the ultimate worst extreme. Like what in the chapter she talks about the Dybbuk and how it's like demonstrating to women like the ultimate worst extreme of male possession of women, and like women aren't supposed to see that because it makes men look bad and it'll make women resistant to sex with men. To me, the dead eyes porn is like modern day version of that. Like women seeing the ultimate worst extreme of that. But women are so socialized to be okay with heterosexual sex, to romanticize heterosexual sex among each other, devoid from the reality of it, that when they do see that, they think, oh, but that's those women. Like, oh, but that's because that woman is crazy, or like that woman is fucked up. And like, I'm not fucked up, but like, that woman has whatever issues going on, whatever circumstances going on. That's irrelevant to me. And like I'm sure that in this example of Rachel in this book, it's like the same thing. You're like, oh well, she was possessed. Like she had one husband and then a second husband. Like I would never do that. They can like separate themselves from it. Anyway, um, that's kind of what I was thinking when I was reading like the second half of the. It's 6 months. Yeah, Anung says most women never see the ultimate worst extreme. Yeah, oh my god, Myron, I don't want to know about this. Myron says it's also a porn star breakdown genre. Not surprising. Um yeah, what was my other thought? I find it kind of like, I don't know if funny is the right word, but like bizarre in like a kind of positive, interesting, quirky way. How like so much of this book so far, each chapter is like kind of half of it is like a book report. Like it's pretty interesting. Um I also forgot how much I love the like rhythm of her writing. Like it's very easy to read. Like it's really wordy. Like what was that term? Paradigmatically or something? I was like I read that like 2 or 3 times and like but all 3 times I stumbled over it. But um the rhythm of the language is very nice. Um oh, what also struck me, this is my final point I have on the chapter, unless you guys have anything to comment, was the distinction between like following the rules, which the women see as like that's the way it should be. And to men, following the rules just means like don't get caught. Or like hide the truth. Um and so to these women in this book, what was the name of this book? Like she mentions the author. Ideal Marriage. Oh no, that's after that. Oh, Satan and Gore, a novel by Isaac Bashevis Singer. Okay. But yeah, the women in this book think that like the rules is like, no adultery, follow your husband's prerogative, like let him dominate you, have sex with your husband, and that like through doing this you're protected from like the worst possible outcome of sex, right? But like first of all, the story is predominantly told from the perspective of the men in the book, at least as far as what we read, as far as what Dworkin told us about, like quoted for us. Like the men watching what's happening to this woman. And we see that like as soon as there's any like justification for the men to be more sexually sadistic, they jump on it, right? All they needed was permission. Like it was already in, like they already had that impulse, that instinct to do that. So the women think if I get married, obey my husband, follow like the social rules, I can like be okay and avoid the worst possible extreme. The men know that's bullshit. The men know as soon as she's under my power, I can do whatever the fuck I want to her. And who's she gonna tell about it? Because it's shameful for her to be in that situation. And it's like the public versus private, right? And that also reminds me of like today. But like in the reverse way of my last point, which is that I mean, so many young women now. I also kind of feel like I'm repeating things that we talked about in Right Wing Women. So many young women now, they think like, okay, what's my romantic ideal? I want a boyfriend who's like responsible, who shares in housework, who splits finances with me, who respects me. Um, and like sexually, what women want these days is like a guy who is like, um, who's like equal in bed. So like, if I make you come, you make me come, kind of thing. At least from like the young women that I like hear online talking about stuff, that's kind of like their ideal sexual situation, right? But like for them, because there is like no separation of like the private versus public in general, what happens is they get with a guy and the guy is like, oh, I'm really into like whatever freaky as fuck kinks or whatever. And then instead of thinking, because now, people don't just marry and stay with one person forever in the West. Instead of thinking, oh, like this dude is shit, I can fuck off and I'll get a new one. They like own the kinks of their boyfriends, or they like own the non-monogamy of their boyfriends. Like how many women do you know? I mean, maybe this doesn't apply to you, but I definitely know some who got with a guy and they were like, this guy is great, he's not super selfish in bed. Sometimes he does his own dishes, A+ guy. And then he's like, oh, I want to like open up the relationship. So it's like, instead of the women following the rules and thinking, at least, on some level, I mean, it was a lie to begin with, obviously, like we know, thinking that, oh, if I follow the rules, like he'll follow the rules. They follow the rules, and then the guy treats them like shit, and then they're like, oh, that's so great. I'll just like own it, and I'll just own it and pretend it's what I wanted all along. and talk about how amazing it is that he's really into like daddy dom little girl or whatever the freaky shit is. And it's just like, yeah, that's what I was thinking about in the first half of the chapter, kind of. Yeah. Sabrina's like most men regret opening relationships because women have easier times finding sexual partners than the men and they can't find anyone, lol. Yeah. I've read like those like think pieces. Well, I've read the titles of those think pieces or like the bylines where it's like guy opens up his relationship and later regrets it because like he's jealous that his wife is like sleeping with other men or whatever, and I'm just like fucking hilarious. Um Lavender Rose says young women today also say they want bisexual or pansexual men. It's just to conform, in my opinion. Yeah, um, I think it's to conform in multiple ways because it's not only to conform in the fact that like it's stylish to have a boyfriend who's bisexual, but I think um, it also is to conform in terms of like dogma, because if a guy calls himself pansexual, this is like a signal that he believes in all the woke crap, right? Like a lot of girls now, or women, I mean, they're very good at like slowly convincing and indoctrinating their boyfriends into all the weird woke shit. And like I've read stuff where there's like a lot of young men in their 20s who are like it's hard to find women to date because because I don't believe in all this woke shit and I don't care about it. Uh or they're like, yeah, I pay lip service to it because I want to be able to have sex. Like I've seen these Tinder profiles of women, like because people post them online. Like I don't go on dating apps. They're like so weird. It's like a Pokemon game for hookups. I don't understand. But like um I've seen these dating apps that are like it's like a woman who's like, if you want to sleep with me, you need to like send me pictures of like a protest you've been to for pro-choice or something like that, where they have like these like activism standards. Anyway, my point is that this whole idea that you want a pansexual boyfriend is that. Um, I think it also is because of like the sheer quantity of women who are non-binary now. Like in my day-to-day life, there's a bunch of women who are currently using they them pronouns who were not using they them pronouns a year ago, and they've changed nothing about their appearance. They've changed nothing about their behavior or presentation or whatever. Like they literally the exact same person they were before. Um they just think that they're being like more inclusive and more like liberated and blah 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 blah. Like it doesn't mean anything, but it's all like in their heads. They're looking for boyfriends. If your boyfriend says they're pansexual and then you go, "Oh, I'm a they them or an NB or whatever," then that validates you, right? Like when I was a TIFF, a lot of the like adult men that I sexted with as like a minor, they called themselves pansexual or bisexual. And like looking back, it was completely um uh what's the word? Opportunistic. Like they were not fucking bisexual or pansexual. They saw that there was a plethora of TIFFs who wanted to be validated as gay men, who were minors, who had no friends and were socially isolated, and they knew that if they called themselves bisexuals, these TIFFs would come flocking to them. That it's like, you know, waving bait in front of them. Anyway, Anung says, women in the 1970s activists, sorry, women in the 70s had activism standards too. It didn't screen out the sadists. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Um, okay, let's look at the next chapter. What's going on? Because, like, I didn't sleep much last night, but I feel like generally with this book, I'm being pretty articulate. I definitely don't want to finish The Disappearing Owl today because the wrap up discussion needs to encompass the entire book. So I want to, like, be alert and awake for that. Um, this I feel like there's so much happening. I can only really make one or two points about each chapter to discuss, so I don't need to like. Anyway, let's see. Chapter 5 is that one that I split into two? Oh no, we're reading chapter 5, chapter 6, part 1. Okay. This is something else. When I made this like screen grabs for these, I figured out that which chapters were too long, but I didn't like look at like what pages I need to stop at, which I did for like the other books. Like when I organized for this book and this book, I looked at the actual number of pages and found like good stopping points in each chapter that I needed to split up. So I haven't done that for this. I'm gonna look right now if you guys want to discuss some stuff. Lavender says, young women never give up hope of finding that one good unicorn man. Yeah, I know. Like the female dating strategy stuff, I'm like, yo, who are these mystical beings that are perfect boyfriends and then you marry them and they stay perfect? Like those guys don't exist. um yeah, anyway, please hold. Or, discuss things or ask me questions or something. Um okay. Um the virginity chapter is 64 pages long. I was gonna split it into two, but I think that's actually crazy. I'm gonna split it into three. Because I mean, we just read. Well, we actually just read almost 30 pages, and that took roughly an hour, right? So 21 pages. So from 164, 185. Okay, this is some kind of Joan of Arc stuff going on here. It's so hard to find a stopping point because, like, you guys stop bringing up women so that I can comment on them. Like, people saying bad things about Julie Bindel and saying good things about Kathy Brennan. Like, I have good and bad things to say about both of them. Please don't tempt me. Okay. Yeah, no comment. Okay, I think I found a stopping point. Like, oh, the reason I didn't put page numbers is because it's an ebook. If I change the size of the letters, which I did like twice during the last reading, like that doesn't mean anything anymore. Okay, so I start on page 164 and I get all the way to like 200 basically is where I stop. Okay, I'm going to end this stream, go to the washroom, have a snack, and then I'm going to start the next stream. So I'll see you all back here. Actually, let me give you the link to the stream. Please hold. Hey, what time is it? 3. Holy shit. Well, you know. Okay, well, this might actually end up being 2 readings. Because I did just read like almost 30 pages and it was like an hour. So I can read about 40 pages, I think, in like 90 minutes ish. Okay, here's the link. To the next stream. I'm gonna go to the washroom and have a snack. I'll see you back here in like probably like 10 minutes. Okay. Okay. Anyway, goodbye. See you in a few minutes.